Hello pretty peoples, Kawajapa no Kyodori desu. I am Kyodori from Kawajapa. Today we are going to talk about the causative form of verbs. These are often dealt with along with the receptive, the so-called passive form, presumably because they are constructed in a very similar fashion. In both cases, they are constructed by attaching a helper verb to the stem of a regular verb. The helper verb for the receptive form is reru, rareru, and the helper verb for the causative form is seru, saseru. With go-down verbs, they attach to the plain past stem, the a ending stem of the verb. So nomu becomes nomaseru, and with ichidan verbs, they simply attach to the verb stem. Ichidan verbs always have the same stem, which you make just by taking the ru off. What the causative means is that someone is causing someone to do something, as you might expect. There's no exact equivalent in English because it can mean that you are forcing someone to do something, or it can mean that you are allowing them to do it. Either way, you are the cause of their doing it, which is why it's very reasonably called the causative form. Now, the textbooks sometimes make this seem more complicated than it really is, through no fault of their own, because, like me, they have to use example sentences. And the problem with example sentences in this case is that we don't have any context, we don't know who these people are or what their motives are, and therefore it's very hard for us to judge whether in a particular case it means force or allow. But in real life that problem doesn't very much arise, whether we're talking about conversation or whether we're talking about watching an anime or reading a book. It's usually clear from context, and if it isn't, there are ways of making it clear. So, let's get to one of those notorious example sentences and look at how it works. 私が桜にパンを食べさせた. I made Sakura eat bread, or I let Sakura eat bread. It's a very simple construction, and the only real problem here is what particles do we use. So let's be clear from the beginning, because this is sometimes obscured by the textbooks. The skeleton sentence here is Watashi ga saseta. The doer is me. The thing I'm doing is causing. Everything else in the sentence is telling us something more about what I am causing. I am causing Sakura to eat bread, but all of that is simply additional information about the fundamental skeleton sentence, Watashi ga saseta. So to begin with, let's be absolutely clear that there is never any doubt about who is the doer in these sentences. If the sentence ends with seru or saseru, then that is the head verb, that is what's being done, the causing, and the person doing the causing is the ga marked doer, the subject of the sentence. The only complication is that the person who is being made to do or allowed to do something is sometimes marked with ni and sometimes marked with o. Now, logically, we would probably expect that they would be marked by wo, but more often than not, they are marked by ni. Why is this? In the case of this sentence, we can see why, I think. There is already a wo in the sentence, pan wo. Pan is the direct object of the eating. It is the thing that's being eaten. And Japanese does not like to have two wo's in a sentence. Now there's a more rigorous reason than this, but I think the simplest way to look at it, the least problematic way to look at it is simply this. Japanese does not allow two o's in the clause. Therefore, we say Sakura ni pan wo tabesaseta. Taberu, in this case, is what we call a transitive verb. That means it has an object. That is the bread. Pan wo tabeta. I ate the bread. Now, in the case of intransitive verbs, that is to say verbs that won't normally take a o, walking or dancing or flying, we don't walk something, we don't fly something, we don't dance something, we just walk or fly or dance. In these cases, we have a freer choice whether to use o or ni. And either can be used, and there's not a hard and fast rule about this. But in these cases, using o tends to imply that you are making someone do something, that they have no choice in the matter. Why? Because when we use wo, we are talking about the object, aren't we? We eat bread, pan wo taberu. The bread has no choice in the matter, we just eat it. We throw a ball, boru wo nageru. The ball has no choice in the matter, we just throw it. So the implication, but it's not a rule, is that we are making someone do something. Ni implies some degree of will on the part of the object. In other words, the person has a choice. As I say, this isn't a rule, but it's regular enough to be worth knowing. In the case of involuntary actions, like sneezing or laughing or crying, if you make someone laugh, you make someone cry, you make someone sneeze, they have no choice in this. It's an involuntary action, so it would actually look rather strange to say ni. We use wo in these cases because they have absolutely no choice in the action. It's not something they're choosing to do, not even as much as when you are making them do their homework. Similarly, we sometimes use the causative with an inanimate object. For example, tamago wo kusaraseru. I make the eggs go bad. In English we usually say I let the eggs go bad. But the thing here is that the eggs have no choice in the matter, so it would seem strange to say tamago ni kusaraseru. We say tamago o kusaraseru, because the eggs have no choice in the matter. The thing to remember is that the actor of the sentence, the doer, is always the person making something happen. And whether we use ni or wo for the person who is being made can be quite complex. Even Japanese people discuss it, but the rules I've given you here will help you to understand it most of the time. You can understand what's being said, and you can construct these sentences yourself without sounding particularly strange. Please remember that the course book for this course of lessons is Unlocking Japanese. You can get it in paperback or electronic editions, and you'll find links in the information section below. If you have comments or questions, please ask them in the comments below, and I will answer. Thank you once again for attending this lesson. これからもよろしくお願いします. Class dismissed.